Yesterday was Gay Pride Day. For those of you who weren't paying attention or couldn't give a slice of a rat's backside, or perhaps had something better to do, like picking the little pieces of sock fluff out from between your toes. Gay Pride Day is a day when the more irritating sort of homosexuals strut around making a show of themselves, which is pretty much like every other day, except they all do it in one place, so it ties up traffic. Gay Pride Day is traditionally followed by Gay Sloth Day, Gay Envy Day, Gay Wrath Day, and Gay Gluttony Day, as gays around the country try to indulge in all 7 of the deadly sins in hopes of bringing back the good old days when they were regarded as wicked and fascinating instead of just sort of annoying. As Gay Pride organizer Garrulus von Self put it in an interview with a Barbie doll he stole from his sister when he was 10, quote, "It used to be people considered gays sinful, and that gave us the cachet of being naughty and sort of forbidden. Once we were more or less accepted, it turned out we were just a bunch of people who sleep with members of the same sex," which, when you come to think about it, isn't even as interesting as sleeping with the opposite sex, which can lead to all sorts of hilarious misunderstandings and complications, like a completely new human being coming out of your wife. For us, it's just sex, and then, that's it. So we thought we'd have a parade. Unquote. In fact, the entire idea of pride, when applied to a group of people like gay pride or black pride or trans pride, not only has nothing to do with pride, it has nothing to do with being gay or black or trans. It's simply a way of roping people into the slavery of leftism by convincing them they're part of a victim group that needs government help and that they can only have pride in themselves by banding together and announcing they have pride in themselves, which, just by the way, doesn't actually work. Organizers of the LGBT Pride Parade in Los Angeles and Charlotte, North Carolina, were at least honest enough to admit to leftism by making their parades about attacking Donald Trump, the most openly pro-gay person ever to be elected president. But the fact is, you can go walking around in black skin, or dress up and pretend you're the opposite sex, or make out with your male friend until he regains consciousness and calls the police, without for 1 second believing that the state should own the fruits of your labor, or that speech should be censored, or that centralized government should be involved in every decision you make about everything. You can be black or trans or gay and be a conservative, which is called being self-reliant and free, which will give you real pride. And then you won't have to have a fake pride parade and tie up traffic. Problem solved. Trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show.
I feel hunky-dunky, life is tickety-boo. Birds are winging, also singing hunky-dunky-doo. Ship-shaped, ipsy-topsy, the world is zippity-zing. It's a wonderful day, hurrah, hooray! It makes me want to sing. Oh, hurrah, hooray! Oh, hooray, hurrah!
All right, we're back broadcasting or podcasting out of my my home, out of my house, because we're still moving into the new studio with its champagne fountains and, the elephants. We have to have room for the elephants and the cages for the elephants and the dancing girls. We have dancing girls in cages, which may be illegal. I'm not sure. But anyway, we'll be here for another couple of days, and then we'll move into the new studios, which I haven't. I mean, I've seen them, but they were all just rooms full of furniture. So for now, here we are. And before we begin, let me just talk to you about NatureBox. And this has got to be one of the easiest sponsors I've ever had, because I don't have to sell it to you. Just go on naturebox.com and look at the snacks they sell you on naturebox.com. Seriously, your mouth will water. My mouth watered. And the thing is, these are healthy snacks. See, I don't know. For me, as I say, I don't sleep, so I have a 24-hour day. And after a while, I notice that other people start to go to bed. I don't know why that is, but they do. And what happens to me is I sit up and I'll pour myself a glass of wine. I'll sit down in front of the television and I'll grab a handful of whatever garbage is in the cupboard, whatever bad food is in the cupboard, and that's what I will snack on. I gain all my weight from about 11 o'clock on. So what this does is this will ship, naturebox.com will ship to your house healthy snacks that are good, they taste good, and they look spectacular. I mean, they're healthy for you too. Like you see a probiotic power mix. I'm just picking these right off the site. Roasted cashews. What was the one? Oh yeah, white cheddar caramel popcorn. White cheddar caramel popcorn, and they come in sizes that limit the calorie intake. You can actually arrange it on the site. It's so easy to use. You can arrange it on the site. If there's certain stuff you can't eat, you just put a check mark there, and it'll eliminate all those snacks. If you want it to be under 150 calories, you can do that. They all come in sizes that are 200 calories or less, below 200 calories. It's about, you can subscribe if you want. You can make it like a club and pay $5 a month, and all that money goes to your purchases. So it's not like it just disappears and then you have to pay for the purchases, but it will give you discounts on the products on the site. If you go now, for me, from here, and put my name in there, you will get 50% off your first order. And the thing about this is this not only helps you by giving you 50% off, it helps us because it lets them know that we're the ones who sent you. So just go on to naturebox.com/Klavan, Klavan, always spelling it the same way, naturebox.com/Klavan, and you'll get 50% off your first order. naturebox.com/Klavan. These are healthy snacks delivered to your door, and you can this way, when it's 11 o'clock and you start eating, you'll be eating something that's actually decent for you. All right, so it was a big Klavanless weekend, especially in Britain. It was almost, I mean, it was almost like the Klavanless abyss in Britain, where they had this election. And Theresa May thought she was going to increase her majority, so it was going to give her some leverage when she went in to negotiate Brexit with the EU, and instead she got nailed. I mean, and all of this, you know, Americans talk about why this happened. It happened for purely local reasons. It happened because she was, you know, she's kind of got no charisma. She cut the police force. She cut the police force funding, and then there were these terrorist attacks. I'm not sure how much that had to do with it, but she really is not somebody who has won the affection of the public, and she's not a very good politician, it appears. So she really got nailed. But the thing that is really, for Brexit goes forward because they've already filed that Article 50 or whatever it was. They've already said they're leaving. They will leave. All this stuff about negotiating a soft Brexit or a hard Brexit, it shouldn't bother Americans one way or another. Even if they leave and they have no deal with the EU, you know, it's not going to be a disaster. It hasn't been a disaster up till now. If you think back and remember the way they were talking about this, you know, set your hair on fire, run out into the streets screaming, this is the worst thing that ever happened. Turned out it wasn't the worst thing that ever happened at all. The economy was fine until this election. The problem here is Jeremy Corbyn, and the problem is that young people voted for him. And we're going to get back to that later in the program because it really does say something. Jeremy Corbyn he's a loon. He's a bad guy. He is not just a communist. He's an anti-Westerner. He consorts with terrorists from the IRA to Latin American terrorists to Hamas and guys like that. And he's all about, like, when these terrorists, he said that we shouldn't shoot the terrorists. That's overreacting. We just want to settle things peacefully. That is how you settle things peacefully with terrorists. You shoot them. That is the best possible way to settle things peacefully with the terrorists. This is a bad guy. And the fact that people voted for him, I mean, he doesn't like, he kind of is for Brexit too, because he's from the left. He hates the EU. But the fact that people voted for him tells you something about how lost the West is. I've talked about this before, about the fact that we've lost this consensus that we had after the war. We're like in this zero gravity room with all the furniture floating around. We don't know where it's going to land. And that's what's affecting us here too. Why so many people are so angry, and so many people don't even understand. This is kind of part of what I want to talk about. They don't even understand the bases of their own philosophy. So they just know they're angry when somebody disagrees with them. But before we look at Britain, let's go back and look at some of the stuff we were talking about before, as the week ended and descended into the horrifying Klavanless weekend. I'm not even sure how many of you are still with us, survived the Klavanless weekend. But I want to talk about some of the ramifications of Comey's testimony that are still going on today as people are kind of sorting through it. You know, the thing about Comey's testimony is it really brought out, more than anything, for me, the disparity between the way Trump and his Justice Department is treated and the way Obama's Justice Department was treated. Because Obama's Justice Department, it now seems clear from stuff that came out last week and stuff that Comey said, it now seems absolutely clear that this was a tremendously corrupt Chicago machine that Obama was running. And he really ran Washington, D.C. on the basis of Chicago machine politics. So here's, you know, you remember that one of the things we learned is Comey said that Loretta Lynch, and we always called her the blandly corrupt Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, because she always had that bland way of explaining things to you like she was mommy when she was saying things that were just utterly corrupt, you know? And so Comey sat down and he said that Loretta Lynch The only time he ever took notes with anybody was just with Trump, because Trump was so bad, so evil, so dishonest. But Loretta Lynch called him in and told him during the Hillary Clinton campaign not to call the investigation into Hillary Clinton an investigation, to call it a matter. And listen to Louis Gohmert react to this. This is cut number 3. Louis Gohmert really understands why this is such a bad thing.
As a former prosecutor, judge, and Chief Justice, I can tell you credibility is always relevant. It's always material. And when Comey said he took a memo of what the president said because he was afraid of what he might do in the future, whereas you have the Attorney General herself basically telling him to lie. She knew it was a criminal investigation. The FBI is not allowed to look into matters. It's got to be an investigation. There's got to be a criminal probe that they're getting into. Otherwise, they have no business getting into fishing expeditions or fishing matters. So he totally ruined his own credibility, what was left of it. He did vast damage and raised big red flags and questions over Loretta Lynch's job as head of the Justice Department. She was using her official position to help the campaign of Hillary Clinton, and that didn't seem to bother him enough to do a memo.
On top of this, by the way, Comey revealed what to me was his own corruption by saying that he leaked his memos to the press. He leaked the memos to the press, hoping to get a special counsel appointed. And remember that I said when they appointed a special counsel, this was the biggest mistake they made, because the GOP panics when the press gets hysterical. And if we had just stayed calm, if people had just stayed calm, I was making jokes about it on the show, and people were calling me up and saying, how can you say be calm? How can you, why are you fronting for Donald Trump? And it had nothing to do with that. I just knew there was no there was no collusion. Now everybody admits there was no collusion. Comey himself says there was no investigation into Trump. There was no need for a special counsel. Now, Comey has maneuvered this special counsel by leaking, and Newt Gingrich is the only guy. I mean, he's not the only guy who said it, but he really came out and said he sent out a tweet. Here's Chris Wallace and talking to Newt Gingrich, and Chris Wallace starts out by reading the tweet that Newt Gingrich put out, saying that the special counsel, Robert Mueller, is now tainted, right? Because Robert Mueller is James Comey's friend. And now we know that the reason that he was appointed had a lot to do with this leaked memo. So it was all maneuvered by Comey, and he got his friend appointed. Here's Newt Gingrich reacting. Chris Wallace starts by reading his tweet.
Republicans need to focus on closing down independent counsel because it clearly isn't independent. What's your reasoning, and wouldn't that really look like an obstruction of justice?
Well, first of all, look at what Comey said. Comey said, I deliberately leaked through an intermediary to create this counsel, who happens to be one of his closest friends. Then look at who Mueller's starting to hire. I mean, these are people that, frankly, look to me like they're setting up to go after Trump. They're including people, by the way, who have been reprimanded for hiding from the defense information in 2 major cases. I think this is going to be a witch hunt. I think that Comey himself, by his own testimony, tainted this particular process. You have a director of the FBI deliberately leaking in order to create a special counsel who we're now supposed to believe is going to be this neutral figure. I think that's just nonsense.
So you heard it here when they appointed this guy. So the problem is he can't fire him because it does look like obstruction of justice, even though it's not. I mean, look, none of this is obstruction of justice. As you know, Trump can fire Comey any day. He can fire Comey any day he wants for whatever. He can fire him for chewing gum, for picking his toes in Poughkeepsie, whatever he wants. That's how he can fire him. So it's not obstructing justice. But now he's got this dogged investigator on his tail with a brief from Comey basically saying, get this guy for firing me. And that's essentially what happened. And he can't fire him. And it was a big, big mistake. And it's all about the press. Listen for a moment of accidental honesty from John King of CNN, okay, when he's reacting to the testimony about Loretta Lynch. Listen to what he says carefully.
Number of significant things. One, this won't get much attention because it's in the rearview mirror, but a pretty damning account from Jim Comey there about Loretta Lynch, the former Attorney General in the Obama administration, and her handling of the Clinton email investigation. It won't get much attention, but that was pretty damning. Number two,
he said that Loretta Lynch told him, don't call it an investigation.
Call it a matter.
Call it a matter.
Right. Call it a matter. And he said he was confused by that and concerned by that.
So listen, this is the way the press always talks. It's not going to get much attention. Now translate that into honest. And it's, we are not going to pay attention to this. We are not going to pay attention to this. We're going to sweep this under the rug. A rare moment of honesty on CNN. Hey, I got to say goodbye to Facebook and YouTube, which means you, if you're on Facebook and YouTube, have to come on over to thedailywire.com. And while you're there, you can subscribe. You could watch the whole thing on the site right there. And you can be in the mailbag on Wednesday. If you subscribe and send in your questions, it's a lousy $8 a month. Come and do it.